How can I call something like this beautiful? Well, honestly, a lot of AAA games have started to feel the same to me. Even as they get cleaner, prettier, more polished, it feels like so many of them are just chasing some platonic ideal of what the perfect game would be. I do love some of these games, but still, I feel that the taste they leave in my mouth is easy to wash out, easy to forget, and that makes me think, if these studios did it, if they finally made something perfect, would I even want it? This thought is part of what keeps me coming back to games like Space Funeral. Space Funeral was released in 2010 by Stephen Gilmurphy, also known as the Catamites, and it quickly broke containment. People were talking about it everywhere, from small independent games forums to larger internet publications like Rock Paper Shotgun or Kill Screen, and both sides were calling it one of the best and most refreshing things they played that year. So, some might be surprised when they open it and see something this crude. This is Scum Village, the starting village for the game, and as you can see, it is an ugly mess. There is red all over the screen, these NPCs are grotesque and nonsensical, the environment is full of random shit. This is how Philip, your character, walks. Even the NPCs barely make sense. They berate you and tell you it's too late to do anything well before anybody tells you what it is you should be doing. It all looks ugly and it all feels hostile. In one of the houses, there is a wizard. He says,
I am the wizard of Scum Village. What? No, it's too late for you. It is said that there is one perfect city, a divine construct from which derives all things in this world.
After some more talking, he finally directs you to the Blood Cavern to meet another wizard. There's something so direct, but so warped about his language. It's all structured off of archetypal early JRPG language, but it's like it's been mangled. Like there's this inescapable syntax of tutorial characters that this wizard unknowingly follows, even though the world is falling apart around him. Space Funeral was made in RPG Maker, and it shows. For those unfamiliar, RPG Maker is a long-standing development program which allowed tons of independent creators to make games in this classic JRPG style. For somebody who has played a lot of RPG Maker games, its fingerprints are immediately obvious from the moment you boot up the game. The grid-based movement, the clear tile sets, the way objects are scattered around in the environments, even the opening menu screen, though it says blood, 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 is the exact same as the default menu for RPG Maker. The first option begins, the second continues, and the third quits. So, for as strange and unfamiliar as this game feels, everybody who has played its contemporaries will instantly understand a lot about how this game will play. Its battle system is, in fact, almost exactly what you'd expect. Outside of some surrealist dialogue and a mystery option which will just do one of many random things, the combat is that of a bare-bones turn-based RPG which you can generally just mash buttons through. It's nothing special, it kills some time, there are a few bosses that are fun, but it feels like the combat's just there because it should be. Despite this being a negative thing to say for almost any other game, this generic combat makes Space Funeral more interesting to me. Just like the wizard's dialogue, it adds to the sense of there being some universal RPG core that the game just can't escape. Like somebody took this JRPG and couldn't figure out how to smash it all to pieces before just giving up and leaving it a mangled mess. That mess of a world left behind is, above all else, interesting. The game is so confident in its surrealist and honestly hilarious presentation. When I first played it in 2015, it left an irreversible mark on my sense of humor and the way that I spoke. There's Philip's self-righteous companion, Leghorse, who demeans and commands Philip around with grandiose language. There's a wizard that will only help you if you let him drink your blood. There's the town of Malice, which has many goods and criminals. There's letters everywhere, but when you open them, Philip always comments on how it was a bad letter, or how it wasn't helpful. Somehow, almost every single piece of dialogue in the game manages to be a punchline, sometimes because it's hilarious on its own, other times because it fits so well into this strange and uncomfortable world. In fact, the game stays hilarious even while being genuinely off-putting or emotional. Of course, this is intentional. It's all part of the game's off-kilter atmosphere. The surrealist world and writing are obviously not just stylistic choices, they are the blood and bones of the game's ethos. The story is, at its core, that the world has been corrupted, and Philip wants to see a wizard to fix it. Leghorse joins him to go to Blood Cavern, and on the boat there they see what they call an error, something that couldn't join the new world after the Great Change. The two are told to go see the City of Forms, which is implied to be the perfect city mentioned by the wizard in Scum Village. Really, most of the game is just the duo's journey there. The joy is in exploring the world, seeing the sights, talking to everyone. The conversation with Count Dracula is one of my favorite bits from any game ever, honestly. Still, when I'm almost at the end, I always realize that I can't shake a somber feeling that's been there since I started. The tone of this game is so hard to pin down. There are so many disparate pieces that, as strange and jagged as they are, come together to make something beautiful. There's the off-kilter art that immediately sets you off, then there's the dialogue that contextualizes the broken world and makes it feel normal somehow. Beyond that, there's the myriad of wild NPCs, the familiar but warped combat and item systems, and, of course, there's the music. This is the song that plays at the beginning of the game in Scum Village. Most of the game's soundtrack consists of rips from BBC Radiophonics, recordings from old rock bands, or Ruth White, an electronic music pioneer. It all plays into this surreal, strange feeling. There are bone-chilling moments when it cuts to Ruth White reading Baudelaire's The Flowers of Evil with heavy effects in the Blood Cavern. There are whimsical radiophonic songs over other sections. It all fits amazingly. Still, this is the song that my mind comes back to again and again and again. It's credited in the game as White Waking, but other translations call it White Awakening. It's a bootleg recording of Les Rallies Danude, a famous and enigmatic noise rock band from Kyoto, Japan. While they were originally active during the 70s and 80s, they didn't gain popularity overseas until the 90s, when bootleg CDs began to circulate across Europe and the US. As the internet grew into stages of early maturity, fans began to find each other, with new people being introduced to the band's music through file sharing. Takashi Mizutani, the reclusive frontman and lead vocalist of the group, was fixated on the sound of feedback. Up until an official release of their discography in 2022, after Mizutani's passing, these bootleg recordings were by far the most prevalent copies of the music in circulation. These were generally tape-recorded in secret at one of their live shows. Like any reasonable band member, Mizutani was vexed by the prevalence of bootlegs, the sloppy recordings that the band saw no royalties from. However, he was also painfully aware of the compromises he had to make if he wanted to record in a studio into a digital format. The most famous interview with him was in 1991, the year the band created their first 3 official releases. The interview was held via fax machine over the course of 10 hours, with Mizutani taking upwards of 4 hours to respond at times. He details the pains of recording with digital mediums, how tons of recordings were abandoned, and only thanks to the tireless effort of studio engineers were they able to create 6 studio-recorded tracks for one of their 3 CDs. The 2 others were live recordings Mizutani had hand-picked after combing through every recording they had. There is a different perfectionism in Mizutani's noise, in the pursuit of making something made in chaos, something bouncing and feeding back off itself. The sound of a guitar getting played through an amplifier, shaking its own strings to recursively deteriorate its own sound. How can something like this ever be perfected? I would call Mizutani a perfectionist, but not in the sense that he was ever intent on making the cleanest, most correct thing, but rather a thing that expressed himself fully, without any limitations. Space Funeral ends as Philip and Leghorse reach the City of Forms, a horrid, bright mess of glitches and sprites mashed together. For almost this entire section, the jokes are subdued, the tone is dulled. As they go into the heart of it, they find the Hall of Forms and meet Moon, a self-described artist who had corrupted the city and the world. She says,
I sought perfection in all things. So seeking to be inspired, I traveled to this city, a place of pure form. It was perfect. It destroyed me. Nothing could be created which was not a pathetic mockery of the objects of the city. The finest works paled in comparison. In the face of such beauty, I felt corrupted, an animal. Our world meant nothing. We were all graceless creatures of slime.
She then details how she corrupted and destroyed the city, how it all needed to go so it can be rebuilt. She laments how she couldn't tear it all away.
It's still not enough, you know. Even now, I can feel echoes of the perfect world in the chance permutations of our broken copy.
Sometimes I play a game and I get sad that it's a game. Or maybe I get sad that it's trying too hard to be a game. Something about the way a beautiful world gets bogged down by a half-hearted combat system, or the way so many games feel the need to justify their existence with a 30-hour runtime. There are traditions that lie deep in the bones of games, traditions that dictate what the platonic ideal of a video game even is. Moon says that she felt like a corrupted animal in the face of beauty, that her person, her experiences, her world meant nothing to perfection. It was so far removed from her that she could not see anything of herself in it. Even her old art, trying to reach towards that, felt so detached that she couldn't handle making or seeing it. There was always a part of her imperfect self that ruined it. Moon hated perfection, the perfection that Philip has never even seen. Philip and Leghorse fight and kill Moon. As she dies, so does her corruption. The two leave the castle, returning to perfection in the form of the default RPG Maker sprites and environments. You look at the world and realize that it's boring, that the game wasn't good despite being ugly, but because it was ugly. It's sad. In this clean, sanitized perfection, all personality, everything interesting was lost. But as the camera pans away, there remains one bloody, grotesque head tree among all the others. Just like Moon could not kill the world's perfection, the world cannot bear to part with Moon. Maybe this is how it is. Maybe creatives and developers will always love weird things just a little too much. Maybe even the games chasing perfection will find themselves beholden to some strange and flawed ideas from their creators. Maybe games will never be perfect. Maybe perfection will always be too boring and impersonal for us. Maybe, at the end of it all, the feedback will keep ringing in my ears long after the amp is turned off.